Hello everyone, I'm Michael Regina and welcome back to my channel. I'm the author and illustrator of The Sleepover, an all-ages horror graphic novel from Penguin Razorbill Books. It's available anywhere books are sold, so check it out if you haven't. And the reason I'm doing this video today is to share something with you all that I think will hopefully be really helpful, especially to those who are looking to make a living in graphic novels or to become a professional. And it'll be discussing how to build a graphic novel pitch. This is actually something I was recently asked to present to a group here in Jacksonville, Florida through SCBWI, which stands for the Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustrators. If you're not a part of this organization and you're a budding artist who's looking to turn professional, or you already are professional, it's a great group to team up with. They provide lots of free resources and meetings and opportunities for you to learn from other creators. And they do some fantastic meet and greets and large-scale conferences that are definitely worth your time as well. But I was asked to come out to my local charter here in Jacksonville to discuss my path into making graphic novels, how I got here, and share some of my process of how I worked through some of the businessy things side of things. Stuff like building that pitch, looking for a literary agent, and the process of getting picked up by an agent, picked up by a publisher. So this video specifically is going to be looking at the pitching process for graphic novels. I've created a document that I shared with them when I met them all in person, and I'm going to kind of go through these points. If this is something that you found helpful and you'd like to have a copy of this document for yourself, I'm going to put a link in the description below. If you sign up for my mailing list, I will send you a copy of this PDF for you to use as well. So with all that in mind, let's dive into what looks like 6 parts of building a book pitch that will help you get your graphic novel noticed by publishers. So I found this a quick preamble before I dive in actually. This is a process that I've developed over a few years of pitching books myself to different publishers. And one of the reasons I'm sharing this is I've actually seen that this pitch formula has been pretty successful. And when I give it to some of my friends, basically I looked at a bunch of pitches from friends of mine who had picked up book deals and really distilled down the elements of what I found to be kind of consistently across the board in their pitches. And then thinking through the elements that I thought helped their books get noticed and picked up by agents and publishers. So quick preamble on that, but let's dive into these 6 points that I think go into making an effective graphic novel pitch. So step number 1, you're gonna want a great cover image. So what I'm gonna use as we're going through this is examples from the Sleepover pitch. This is the actual pitch that I used to send to agents and then was also used to go to editors to pick up my book deal that I did with Penguin Razorbill. But the first thing I came up with was just that striking image. You want some sort of cover image right on the front cover that allows your agent and editor to know, like, man, this is a book I'm interested in. I get a feel for the vibe of the book. I understand what this series is about. You want that, it's like the movie poster that you see outside of the movie theater. You want something that draws people in. I think this is a great thing to include on the front of every graphic novel pitch. If you can come up with some sort of logo or whatever, that's also awesome. I'm so glad that my art director over at Penguin helped me with this logo, because I'm looking at the one I came up with on the pitch. Not the best in the world. This one's pretty awesome. But yeah, start off with that cover image. You want to figure out what that's going to look like. Step number 2, what you're going to want is an awesome introduction to your pitch. Now, this introduction serves as sort of that cover page item for your graphic novel. And what you're going to include on this are 3 basic things. You're going to want a log line for your story, a project outline, and an introduction to what the project is all about. Now, I'm going to go on these in detail a little bit on each piece, and hopefully that's helpful. So the log line piece that you want to display for your graphic novel is the sort of elevator pitch for your book. It's your synopsis of your book in 1 to 2 sentences, preferably 1 if possible, where you kind of hook the reader right in a way. They can know right off from that piece whether or not this is something that they're interested in and want to continue reading, or pick up and decide to hang around. So first element, you want this log line on this introductory page. The second thing you would like on this page is a project outline. Now this project outline in particular is about setting the parameters of what the goals of this project are. So what I mean by that is, how long is this? Is this a series? Is it a standalone book? How long do you think it might take to produce? How long of a book do you think it'll be? How many pages? What kind of genre is it in? You're setting the sort of project stage so that editor and agent sees on that first piece, like, okay, I know that I'm buying a series or I'm buying a standalone book, or I know that it's going to be generally this long, so on. So this is just a helpful block of text that will establish everything for your agent and editor to know this is the project that I'm agreeing to. The next element I think is awesome to include is an introduction. Now, this introduction is your opportunity to be personal. And what I mean by that is what you're going to use in this introductory section is you're going to be telling the editor and agent why this book matters to you, why this is something that you want to tell. It's your opportunity to make that personal connection. Are you reliving a childhood memory or fear and you're confronting it in this book? Are you confronting the loss of a loved one or what it felt like to lose somebody that you were in a relationship with or something? You're being personal here so that editor or agent can know, hey, like, I'm vibing with this person. I understand their worldview, what's making them tick, and why this story matters. This is the section where you get up close and personal about why you're there. All right, so now our third section of the pitch is going to be your synopsis. This is a brief description of your book. Now, what I mean by brief is no more than 5 pages, and even that's probably pushing it. A one-page document is excellent if you can do it, but I never seem to fall in that range. I always end up around the 3-page range, 3 to 5 page range. But you just want to do a quick breakdown of the entire book. You want to give a synopsis of a beginning, a middle, and an end for the entire story that you're telling. You also want to be extremely focused in this synopsis. So what I mean by that is this document is not the place to tell you about, or tell the editor and agent about all the side quests of all your characters and the backstories of all the supporting characters. It needs to be extremely focused. And what I mean by extremely focused is we're going to stay honed in on who your main character is and what their arc is as a character from beginning to end, how they change over the course of the story. The supporting characters and everything else that are part of the story are definitely important, and you need to highlight them at points, but you're trying to stay focused. What does my character go through from beginning to end? There's some great resources on the internet as well. I'll include a link in the description below. There's a one-pager template that I've used for every pitch document that I've written, and I just sort of plug and play. It's actually, they use Star Wars as an example of how to write a one-page document, and I just sort of like read the paragraphs that they give, and I just replace it with my own text. And it's just a great place to kind of get a solid foundation of writing that one-page synopsis. So I'll include that link in the description below, but an excellent resource for writing this section, because that one-page synopsis is difficult, and finding a resource like that really helped me. So I'll include that. The fourth section that you want to include is a character sheet section. Now, the character sheets of your pitch are designed to introduce your agent and editor to all the characters that are going to be in the story. And I guess I should say all the prominent characters in your story. We don't need, the guard that stands outside of the castle or the girl who sits in the back of the classroom or something. We want to introduce our main characters and our prominent secondary characters. And you're going to, especially with a graphic novel where the art and visuals are so important, you're going to want to use this section to give drawings of those characters. So what you'll see as I'm displaying images here is that I gave the name of those characters, a brief description of them and their wants and motivations, and followed by an image of that character that they can use as a guide of like, okay, that's who that character is. Typically I end up somewhere around 8 or fewer characters that I feature here, but this is again a place for you to give a little bit more insight into the characters in the project that you're stating, and it helps the editor and agent know the parameters or the personality of all these other characters you're gonna come encountered with along the journey. And number 5, this is obviously a big one. So on number 5 is your sample section of art. And in this sample section of art, what you're going to be going for is a complete sequence of storytelling. This generally, you want to keep this around 20 or fewer pages with probably around 5 completely finished pages of art. Obviously, your mileage may vary on that depending on how experienced you are or how much people already kind of know you. So like I imagine that if you're a graphic novelist who is very experienced and quite well known, you may not need quite so much art. But as a general rule, I'm going to say 20 total pages of art, or no more than 20 total pages of art, and about 5 finished pages of art. And then the rest of the art can be completed inks, potentially sketches, but I would, say, hey, at least finish your inks out so that you have clean, readable line art that the agent and editor can use as an example of a storytelling piece. Now, with this sample sequence, your main objective is to be exciting and to bring people into your world. So the reason I'm bringing that point up is it's not the most important thing that this sequence of art is the beginning of the story, but rather that it's just an interesting section of the story. For the sleepover, I actually did draw the opening sequences, so about 16 pages of the book, and included that. And there was like 5 finished pages of art there. As you can see in the samples that I'm showing here on screen, the art at the time was actually not color. It was all black and white or using the sepia tones. But that was the original intention. I was going to do art that looked like that. And then after that, it was all completed inks. And then actually at the behest of my agent afterwards, I added an additional 10 pages that took place in the middle of the book. This goes back to my point that it doesn't have to be the beginning. A sequence that happened in the middle of the sleepover that kind of highlighted the scary and more exciting elements that the story would eventually go down. So you want the kind of both of those. You want a sample sequence that really introduces readers to your story. And again, it doesn't have to be the beginning of the story. It can be somewhere in the middle with sample pages that are finished, as well as complete inks. The most important part about this section is that you're showing your editor that you know how to tell a story and that you can do it clearly and cleanly, so that they can look at that and they can say, okay, I know what the look and feel of the story is. I get a sense for how this creator paces their storytelling, or creators, if you're a writer artist team, so that they can get a sense for like, okay, I know what I'm getting if I sign up for this project. And then the 6th and final piece, the all-important author bio or creator's bio, if you have multiple people working on this. And this is really, I think, your last place to leave an impression. You could view this as sort of the foot end or the footer of the document and not be overly concerned with what you put there. But I always remember like, hey, what's the thing, you leave places with, or you leave the movie theater with? The ending matters a lot. And with the author bio, your main objective is to do something. You want to make sure, obviously, that they know who you are and all the collaborators are. But I think it's a good idea to include things like irony, a little bit of humor and stuff like that to make sure that they are enjoying themselves and like leave with an impression. For instance, at the end of mine, I put, Michael has unfortunately never seen a monster before. I do that sort of thing frequently. Like I'll say, I've never seen a UFO before. Something like that, just to throw in some humor at the end. And then finally, you'll want to include your contact information. All right, so those are the 6 elements that you want to include in every graphic novel pitch. I'm going to leave a few more tips here at the very end. First off, I think it's an excellent idea that you don't just place text and images against a white background. Think through your pitch packet, as a total package. So you want to think about every element that is helping to convey the storytelling and the mood of your project. So I didn't put anything on a black background or white background with mine. There's sort of a textured paper feel, and it hopefully is just helping sell the general vibe of the story that I'm telling to these agents and editors that I'm hoping to work with. I would encourage you to keep in mind that this pitch document is not a final product. So what I mean by that is you are not showing your agents and editors the book as it absolutely will be. It is intended as a sales document. And with it, it's pretty unique within the publishing world that, especially with graphic novels, projects tend to sell, or they can very easily sell, off of a pitch. And the reason for this is that there is a lot that goes into the art process. And if you are completely finished with your graphic novel and you turn in a document that shows that you finished everything, unless the editor or agent loves everything, there's going to potentially be suggestions, or there's going to be ideas that they want to throw at you, and they're going to see something within that document and want to help further it. And so if you finished all this art, or you see this as final, you may miss out on that opportunity. Now, I would say you shouldn't take every piece of advice that comes your way. You should be very confident in the story that you're telling. However, if you meet an agent or an editor that presents ideas that you think are great, and you're still seeing this pitch document as something that's more of a sales tool rather than a final piece, you're more likely to incorporate great feedback as a result of that. So just keep that in mind, that this is a sales document. This is not the final piece. Be open and ready for awesome feedback, because if you get a great editor and you get a great agent, they're gonna have some great feedback, and those things will help you just make sure that you're telling a great story. I would also say, remember, this pitch process is great and you should definitely take yourself down it, but it's also really important to be honest about where you are in your process. If you are a creator who has never finished a graphic novel before, and you don't necessarily have a track record, like I self-published 3 graphic novels before I ever pitched The Sleepover, I had shown that I could finish a book. If this is something that you're very new at, or you're learning a lot about, remember that it's important to be able to show that you can finish and follow through. Or at least that's my opinion. I think it goes a long way. And so what I would encourage you in this process is, if you've never published a book before, never self-published or worked with a publisher before, while you may not want to finish the whole graphic novel, it's not a terrible idea to really finish up an entire script, the book in some sort of script or rough format that you're willing to be partial and pass on from, to show that editor or agent that you're serious, that you have thought the story through all the way, and that you can execute it on some level if they do agree to terms. So just be honest with yourself on that process. Is this something that you feel like you have a proven track record, or that you are still fairly new in that process and you want to get an attention? Do that extra work. Unfortunately, with pitching graphic novels, you do a lot of work a lot of times for no pay. You haven't been paid yet, but you're putting your best foot forward and showing confidence and resilience and the willingness to do the effort and do the hard things. So just be honest with yourself with that process. All right, so that's those are my tips for putting together a graphic novel pitch. Like I said, I have a PDF down that you can click on and get signed up for and get that document to help you out. It's a checklist format, so you can work through your pitch and check off the pieces as you finish them. This is a little bit of a process. It takes a couple months sometimes to put together a great graphic novel pitch, but this process has been successful for me. Hopefully it will be for you as well. And obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to ping me, send me an email or something. Love to talk with you about your pitch, see what you're up to, and I'll do my best to help. Otherwise, happy pitching. I wish you all the best success as you pursue this dream of getting published and making graphic novels. I can't wait to read them. Thank you for your time again. Remember to check out The Sleepover if you never have. Check your local library, pick it up from a bookstore, however you want to read it. I just want to know what you think. So take care, guys. I appreciate you being here on this channel. All the best.